There is a moment that arrives without announcement. It's not a dramatic scene from a film. It's a quiet click inside you. The moment you stop being available. It's not a tactic. It's not a game of calculated silence. It is a deep, cellular exhaustion. A point where the cost of being the one who waits, who understands, who adapts, who reaches out, finally becomes greater than the fear of being alone. You put your phone down, and for the first time, you are not waiting for it to light up. You go about your day, and the familiar background hum of anxiety, the silent question of, what is he thinking? Will he write? Begins to fade. In its place, there is a strange, unnerving quiet. The air in the room feels different. It's the air of a space that was once occupied by two, even if one was only present in your mind, and is now, suddenly, occupied by one. You have stepped out of the dance. You have stopped providing the energy that kept the dynamic, however painful, alive. You have become, in a word, unavailable. Not physically distant, perhaps. You still exist in the world, but your emotional energy, your constant, invisible outreach, has been withdrawn. You have closed the door, not slammed it shut, but quietly, firmly closed it. And in the silence that follows, a profound question arises, one that echoes in the deepest parts of your psyche. What happens on the other side of that door? What happens within a man's inner world when the woman who was always there, suddenly, is not? The surface answer is simple and often misleading. He might not react at all. He might seem indifferent, even relieved. His life, from the outside, continues unchanged. This is the first test of your resolve. It's the moment your mind might tell you, see, it meant nothing. You meant nothing. But this is only the surface. This is the domain of the ego, the fortress of the social mask. To understand what truly happens, we must go deeper into the unseen architecture of the psyche. We must look past the man's conscious behavior and into the unconscious world that Carl Jung mapped for us. Because when a woman withdraws her availability, she does not simply create a void in his daily schedule. She removes a mirror. And what a man sees, or is forced to feel, when that mirror is gone, is a truth he may have spent his entire life avoiding. The common belief is that your absence makes him miss you. But this is too simple. It's not about missing. It is about disturbance. You were not just a person in his life. You were a function in his psychological system. You were, perhaps, the silent caretaker of a part of his own soul he was not ready to meet. And when the caretaker leaves, the house is no longer in order. The silence you create is not empty. It is a psychological space, a vacuum that the unconscious absolutely abhors, and it will rush to fill it. What fills it is the beginning of our story. This process begins with his persona. The persona, in Jungian terms, is the mask we present to the world. It's the cool guy, the independent man, the one who is not looking for anything serious, the one who is too busy for a relationship. This persona is a carefully constructed identity, designed for social survival and for the management of his own inner fears. When you were available, you were unconsciously validating this persona. Your willingness to accept crumbs of attention, to be there at his convenience, to ask for little in return, all of this propped up his mask of the self-sufficient man who could have connection without commitment. You were the silent, off-stage partner in his one-man show of independence. You asked for so little that he never had to question if he had more to give. Your presence confirmed his narrative. I am a desirable man who can keep a woman interested with minimal effort. I am in control. When you withdraw, the first thing that happens is a crack in this persona. The audience has left the theater. The applause has stopped. His ego, the center of his conscious identity, feels this as a loss of control. It's a subtle injury to his pride. He might not even register it as being about you. It might manifest as a vague irritability, a feeling of being off kilter, a sudden boredom with the very freedom he claimed to cherish. His ego's first defense is to double down on the persona. He will act even more indifferent. He might post photos of himself having fun. He might engage with other people more publicly. This is not always a conscious act to make you jealous. It is an act of self-reassurance. He is trying to prove to himself, more than to you, that his mask is real, that he is fine, that he doesn't need you. He is patching the crack in the persona, trying to convince himself that the theater was never important anyway. This is the stage where many women falter. They see this performance of indifference and take it as the final truth. They believe their absence has had no effect, and the pain of that conclusion often sends them rushing back, ready to be available again, just to soothe the feeling of being insignificant. But if you can hold your ground, if you can stay in your own center and observe this performance without participating, you allow the process to move to its next, much deeper level. Because beneath the frantic repairs of the ego, the unconscious has already registered a profound shift. The persona can lie to the world, but the psyche cannot lie to itself. The withdrawal of your energy has created a problem that the persona cannot solve. It has disturbed the balance of his inner world. Think of it like this. There was a chair in the room of his psyche. It was your chair. You sat in it, providing a certain kind of light, a certain warmth, a certain energy. It was the chair of emotional availability, of feminine presence, of unspoken support. He may have rarely looked at the chair, he may have taken it completely for granted, but his entire inner landscape was arranged around it. He knew it was there. Now, the chair is empty. At first, he might not notice consciously. He walks into the room, busy with his own thoughts, and something just feels off. The light is different. The temperature has dropped by a single, almost imperceptible degree. He can't put his finger on it. This is the ego's confusion. But the unconscious knows exactly what has happened. The empty chair is screaming its absence. This is where the true psychological process begins, far beyond the reach of his conscious pride. The empty chair represents the removal of a critical psychological function you were performing for him. Very often, a woman's consistent availability serves as an external container for a man's own undeveloped feeling function, what Jung called the anima. The anima is the unconscious feminine side of a man's psyche. It is the archetype of relationship, of feeling, of intuition, of connection to the soul. In a man who is not psychologically mature, the anima is often unconscious and undeveloped. He doesn't know how to relate to his own feelings, so he seeks a woman in the outer world onto whom he can project this inner figure. When you were available, you were the perfect screen for his anima projection. You carried his feelings for him. You did the emotional work of the relationship. You provided the warmth, the connection, the meaning that his own inner life was lacking. He didn't need to develop his own capacity for intimacy because you were providing it for both of you. He could remain in his cool, detached persona because he was outsourcing his soul's needs to you. When you become unavailable, the projection screen is torn away. The projector is still running, but the image of the anima now has nowhere to land. It falls into the void, into the empty chair. He is suddenly and terrifyingly left alone with his own inner state. The vague feelings of loneliness, the deep-seated fear of abandonment, the yearning for meaning, feelings he was able to ignore because your presence soothed them, now begin to surface. He will not call it this. He will not say, "My anima projection has been disrupted." He will say, "I'm bored," or "I feel strangely empty," or he might feel a sudden, inexplicable anger. This anger is often a defense against the vulnerability that is bubbling up from his unconscious. It's easier to feel angry at you for changing or playing games than it is to face the terrifying emptiness of his own inner world, the emptiness you were so conveniently filling. This is a critical turning point. The man is now faced with a choice, though it is rarely a conscious one. He can either turn and face the empty chair, which means turning inward and beginning the difficult work of integrating his own anima, of learning to feel for himself, or he can desperately try to find another screen, another woman, to fill the chair and take on the role you just vacated. If he is psychologically immature, he will likely choose the latter. He will seek distraction. He will look for a quick replacement, someone who is willing to be as available as you once were. This is not a sign that he never cared about you. It is a sign that he was never relating to you in the first place. He was relating to the function you performed. He is not replacing you, the person. He is replacing the service provider for his unconscious needs. But here is the deeper truth. Even if he finds a replacement, the dynamic will not be the same, because your withdrawal has planted a seed of knowledge in his unconscious. He now knows on some level that availability is not a given. He has experienced the shock of the empty chair. The next woman who sits in it will be unconsciously measured against the ghost of your absence. A part of him will be waiting for her to leave too. Your act of self-reclamation has permanently altered his inner landscape. But what if he doesn't find an immediate replacement? What if the shock of your absence is strong enough to hold his attention? This is when the real internal dialogue begins. The silence you have created gives his own thoughts room to breathe. When you were constantly available, your texts, your calls, your energy filled the space. He didn't have to wonder what you were doing. He knew. He didn't have to confront his own feelings about you, because you were always there to manage the emotional tone of the connection. Now, in your absence, a vacuum of information is created. His mind, accustomed to the data stream of your availability, begins to generate its own data. He starts to wonder, what is she doing? Is she with someone else? Does she not think of me at all? Notice that these questions are born from his ego's anxiety. The ego is losing its position of certainty and control. It is this uncertainty that begins to chip away at his persona. The cool, unbothered mask becomes harder to maintain when he is genuinely starting to question his own significance in your life. This is not about making him feel insecure. It is about the natural consequence of removing a false certainty. You were the foundation that made his casualness possible. With the foundation gone, the structure of his indifference begins to feel unstable. This is often when a man's shadow side can emerge. The shadow, in Jungian psychology, contains all the parts of ourselves that we repress and deny. For a man with a strong persona of independence, his shadow often contains its opposite: dependency, neediness, and a deep-seated fear of being alone. As long as you were available, he could successfully repress this shadow. He could project it onto you, seeing you as the needy one, while he remained the strong, independent one. This is a classic psychological defense. I don't have these uncomfortable feelings, you do. When you withdraw, you take that projection with you. He can no longer use you as the container for his own disowned neediness. The shadow returns to him. He is forced to confront the feelings he has always denied in himself. That flicker of panic when he realizes you haven't checked in. That pang of something that feels suspiciously like jealousy. That deep, unsettling feeling of being left. This is an incredibly uncomfortable state for the ego. The man who built his identity on not needing anyone is suddenly confronted with the evidence of his own need. His first instinct will be to fight it, to deny it, to push it back down. But your continued, calm unavailability gives it nowhere to go. It stays with him, in the quiet of his apartment, on the drive home from work, in the moments before sleep. The empty chair is no longer just a feeling. It's a presence. It's the presence of his own shadow. This is the point where something remarkable can happen. The tension between his persona, who he thinks he should be, and his shadow, the feelings he actually has, can create a powerful impetus for change. He might start to remember things differently. The moments he took for granted, the way you listened, the way your presence calmed him, the easy intimacy he dismissed as casual, are now reevaluated by his psyche. His memory begins to edit the story. In the light of your absence, your value becomes retroactively clear. It's the classic human pattern. We don't know what we have until it's gone. But psychologically, it's deeper than that. We don't allow ourselves to feel the value of something until its absence forces us to confront the void it leaves behind. He might start to feel a sense of regret. Not just the ego-based regret of, I lost a source of validation, but a deeper, more soul-level regret. The regret of having been asleep when something real was present. The regret of having honored his persona more than his heart. This is the internal crisis that your unavailability has triggered. It's a battle between his ego's pride and his soul's truth. His ego will tell him, don't you dare reach out. Don't give her the satisfaction. You are better than this. His pride will scream that chasing you is a sign of weakness. But his unconscious, now activated and alive with the energy of the shadow and the longing of the anima, will be pushing in the opposite direction. It will be whispering about the empty chair. It will be replaying memories with a new emotional filter. It will be creating dreams and synchronicities that bring you to mind. Whether he acts on this or not depends on the strength of his ego versus the courage of his emerging self. If his ego and his fear of vulnerability are stronger, he will remain silent. He will try to wait you out, hoping you will break the silence first and restore the old, comfortable dynamic. He will suffer in private, hardening his persona into a suit of armor. But if the discomfort of the empty chair becomes great enough, if the call of his own neglected soul becomes loud enough, he may do something that terrifies his ego. He may reach out. And now, we must turn the focus entirely back to you. Because this entire process, this storm in his psyche, is not the point of your journey, it is a byproduct. The question is not whether he will break the silence. The question is, who will he find if he does? If your unavailability was a tactic, a game to get a reaction, you will likely crumble at his first sign of interest. The moment he sends that "thinking of you" text, you will flood back with all the availability he was used to. The dynamic will reset, the chair will be filled, and his psyche will breathe a sigh of relief. The crisis will be averted, the lesson will be lost, and you will have taught him that your absence is merely a negotiation, not a transformation. But if your unavailability came from a place of genuine self-reclamation, from that deep click of knowing you deserve more than to be a convenient option, then his return will be met with a fundamental change. You are no longer the woman who waits by the phone. You have been busy filling your own life. You have been tending to your own inner world. The silence was not an empty, painful void for you. It was a space for you to hear yourself again. You have been taking yourself on dates, investing in your friendships, pursuing your passions, rediscovering the woman you were before you made yourself small to fit into his world. You have faced your own shadow, the part of you that was addicted to the hope of his validation, the part that feared being alone, the part that believed your worth was tied to his attention. You have sat with that fear, and you have not let it drive you. So when he reaches out, he is not met with the anxious, overeager energy he expected. He is met with a calm, centered woman, a woman who is pleased to hear from him perhaps, but whose happiness is no longer dependent on it. A woman who has her own full life, her own boundaries, her own non-negotiables. You have left the empty chair in his room, and you have built yourself a throne in your own. This is the ultimate test. He is not just meeting a woman who has withdrawn her availability. He is meeting a woman who has reclaimed her sovereignty. She does not need him to fill her emptiness, because she is no longer empty. She does not need his validation, because she has learned to validate herself. This can be profoundly disorienting for him. He was expecting to find the same woman he left, just a little sadder and more desperate for his return. Instead, he finds a woman who has undergone a quiet revolution. Her value is no longer a question up for his debate. It is a fact she lives in. If this exploration of the inner world has named something you have felt but never had the words for, take a moment to acknowledge that insight. This is not about strategy. It is about seeing the hidden psychological truths that govern our lives. The man now faces a new choice. He can either rise to meet this new woman, which requires him to finally step out from behind his own persona and engage with her from a place of authenticity and respect. Or he can retreat, intimidated by a woman who no longer needs to be needed in the way he is used to. If he retreats, it is a gift. It is the final confirmation that he was only ever interested in the role you played, not the soul you are. His retreat does not diminish your value. It reveals his limitations. You have lost nothing of substance. If he chooses to step forward, the entire foundation of the relationship must be renegotiated. The old dynamic of your over-availability and his under-commitment is dead. It cannot be revived. He must now show up as a whole person, willing to engage with you as a whole person. He must learn to fill his own empty chair with his own self-awareness, his own feeling, his own commitment. This is the profound power of a woman who stops being available. It's not a manipulation to get a man back. It is an act of individuation. It is a declaration that her energy is a precious resource, not a public utility. It is a sacred boundary that separates herself from the projections of others. The process forces a crisis of truth, first in him, and most importantly, in you. It reveals whether the connection was based on convenience and projection, or on a genuine potential for mutual recognition. Ultimately, what happens in him is secondary. The real transformation happens in you. The moment you truly stop being available to that which diminishes you, you become fully available to yourself. You stop being a mirror for his unexamined life, and you become the artist of your own. The silence you created was never about him. It was the space you needed to finally hear your own voice. And once you hear that voice, once you learn to trust it, its guidance becomes more important than any text message, any call, any sign of his return. If he comes back, he will find the door to your life is no longer wide open. It is closed. It is not locked, but he must knock, and he must be worthy of being invited in. Because the woman who answers the door is not the one who is waiting in the hallway. She is the one who now owns the house. My absence is not a weapon. It is the sound of me returning to myself. And this return is not just a mental decision. It is a profound, physical event. It is a shift in the very memory of your body. For months, perhaps years, your body has been trained in the art of waiting. Your shoulders carried the tension of anticipation. Your breath was shallow, held in readiness for a response. Your nervous system was in a constant, low-grade state of alert, a soldier on watch for a signal that might never come. This is the body memory of unrequited emotional labor. It is an exhaustion that sinks into your bones, a posture of leaning slightly forward into a future that never arrives. When you withdraw your availability, you are not just closing an emotional door, you are giving your body permission to stand up straight. You feel a release in your jaw you didn't know was there. Your shoulders drop. You begin to breathe deeper into your own belly, not into the space of anxiety between you and him. You might find yourself sleeping more soundly, the frantic dream work of trying to solve the puzzle of him finally ceasing. This is your body reclaiming its territory. It is no longer a satellite, orbiting his world, its rhythms dictated by his gravitational pull. It is becoming its own planet, with its own weather, its own seasons, its own solid ground beneath your feet. You start to inhabit your own skin differently. The space around you no longer feels like a waiting room. It feels like home. While you are experiencing this somatic homecoming, he is experiencing its opposite. His body, too, has a memory. It remembers the ease of your presence. It remembers the way his own nervous system would regulate in your calming field of energy. He might not have been conscious of it, but on a primal, physical level, his body knew you as a source of comfort, a place of rest. Now, it experiences a kind of phantom limb syndrome. He reaches for his phone to share a thought, a joke, a complaint, and his thumb hovers over the screen as his body remembers. You are no longer the recipient of these casual transmissions. A physical restlessness might set in. He might feel a need to pace, to drive aimlessly, to seek out loud bars or intense workouts. This is his body trying to process an absence it cannot name. It is trying to outrun the silence you left behind, a silence that now lives inside his own skin. This is the stage where the psychological crisis deepens into an existential one. The initial anger and ego defenses have failed to bring you back, and the distractions have failed to fill the void. The empty chair is no longer just a symbol of your absence. It has become a mirror for his own emptiness. He begins to experience what the psyche registers as true loss. This is not the ego's frustration. This is the soul's grief. It manifests in subtle, concrete ways. A song they once listened to together plays in a cafe, and he is ambushed by a wave of emotion so profound it physically startles him. He might have a recurring dream, not of you, but of being lost, of searching for something he cannot find, of a door he cannot open. This is his anima, the inner feminine, no longer projected onto you but now speaking to him from the depths of his own unconscious, using the language of symbol and dream to signal its neglect. He may feel a strange pull to places you once visited together, as if your ghost might still be there. He is not consciously looking for you. His psyche is looking for the part of himself he left in those places, the part that was more alive, more connected, more real in your presence. The woman, in her absence, has ceased to be a person and has become a living symbol of his own lost potential for wholeness. And it is precisely at this point, when the internal pressure becomes unbearable, that he will often make a move. But it will rarely be the grand, transformative gesture you might imagine. His ego is still wounded, his pride still on high alert, so he will not come with a declaration. He will come with a test. This is the final and most crucial stage of the process, the practical test of your new reality. The first test is often the test of nostalgia. He will send a message that is deliberately casual, referencing a shared memory. Was just driving past that little Italian place we went to. Hope you're well. The subtext is clear. Remember how good it was? Remember that shared world? Is the door to that world still open? He is trying to pull you back into the past, into the territory where the old rules applied. The woman who was playing a game would see this as a victory and eagerly jump back into the memory with him. But the woman who has truly returned to herself responds differently. She might reply, "Oh yes, that was a lovely evening. I hope you're well too." It is warm, but it is not an invitation. It acknowledges the past without stepping back into it. She stays firmly in the present, where she now lives. She does not offer to go back there with him. she passes the test. If that fails, he might escalate to the test of the crisis. A message arrives, perhaps late at night. Having a really tough time with work right now. You were always so good at seeing things clearly. This is a more direct appeal. He is testing if your old role as his emotional support, his unpaid therapist, his container for his anxieties, is still available. He is dangling the bait of being needed, knowing it was once your weakness. The old you would have dropped everything, ready to soothe and advise, feeling a rush of significance. The new you understands the dynamic. You can show compassion without resuming the role. You might reply, "I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sure you have the strength to figure it out. I believe in you." It is supportive, but it hands the responsibility back to him. It says, "I am no longer carrying this for you." You have validated his strength, not his dependence. You pass the test. Finally, if he is still driven by the most superficial parts of his ego, he may attempt the test of casual access. This is the late-night, "You up?" text. It is the most primitive test of all, a blunt instrument to see if the physical convenience you once offered is still on the table, separate from any emotional change or commitment. It is his ego's last-ditch effort to reduce your entire complex journey of self-reclamation to a simple question of physical availability, to prove to himself that nothing has fundamentally changed. For the woman who has done the work, this text is not even insulting. It is simply information. It is the clearest signal yet of where he is in his own process. It requires no anger, only clarity. She may not even reply. Her silence is not a punishment. It is the simple, factual statement that she is no longer on that menu. The house is closed for the night. The house is closed for that kind of business entirely. She has passed the final test. After these tests are met not with anger or games, but with a calm, unshakable boundary, the man is left at a final crossroads. There is nowhere left for his ego to hide. The games have not worked. The old dynamics are defunct. He is facing a woman who is not a mirror, but a mountain. He has two paths. The first is to retreat. The mountain is too high to climb, her self-possession too intimidating. It requires more work than he is willing to do. He will recede, perhaps finding someone else who is willing to play the old roles, forever haunted by the quiet knowledge that he met a queen and was not king enough to rise to her. This is not your loss. It is his. The second path is transformation. It is the path of surrender. Not surrendering to you, but surrendering his own ego. It is the terrifying, liberating moment when he finally puts down the mask, knocks on your door without a strategy, and is willing to say, in some form, "I was wrong. Your absence showed me something about myself I didn't want to see. I don't know how to do this, but I am willing to learn." This is the only foundation upon which something new can be built. Not a return to what was, but the beginning of what could be, between two whole people. But see, here is the final, beautiful secret. By the time you reach this point, by the time you have reclaimed your body, passed the tests, and solidified the boundaries of your own kingdom, a strange peace has settled in. The question of which path he will choose no longer holds the charge it once did. Your well-being is no longer hanging in the balance of his decision. You have already done the most important work. You have learned to sit in the empty chair in your own soul and fill it with your own presence. You have faced the silence and found, not an absence, but a melody, your own. The entire journey was never truly about what happens to him. It was a crucible designed for you. It was the universe's way of asking you one question, over and over, in the quiet of your loneliest nights. Will you choose him, or will you choose you? When you stop being available to him, you are finally, fully, irrevocably making your choice. And in that choice, you don't just get yourself back. You meet yourself, perhaps for the very first time. And you realize you are more than enough. The house is not empty. It was just waiting for its rightful owner to come home.